Have you ever imagined your own son kicking you out of the house after winning $17 million? Clara never imagined that, not for a second, until one day, she stood in front of the very home she helped pay for. A suitcase in one hand, a heart weighed down in the other, and heard it, that sound, that cold, final sound. The cold metallic click of the deadbolt was the only goodbye I received. It echoed louder than any cruel word, colder than her daughter-in-law's stare. And in that moment, Clara May Thompson understood one thing. They thought she had nothing left. But what they didn't know was that the real winning ticket was still in her purse. The cold metallic click of the deadbolt was the only goodbye I received. It wasn't a word, not even a breath, just that sharp, final click, sharper than my son's last cruel sentence, colder than the contempt frozen in his wife's eyes. It was the sound of being shut out, not just from a house, but from a life, from my life. I stood there on the porch, the same porch I had helped paint years ago, now cracked, weather-worn, and unfamiliar. Beside me sat 2 worn suitcases and a canvas knitting bag, faithful companions who looked as lost as I felt. Inside that house, the one my savings had secured, the one where I had rocked their baby through countless fevers while they slept, I imagined glasses clinking, champagne foaming, and the air full of laughter that once belonged to me. And outside, in the sticky heat of an Ohio summer, I was just a ghost. But this didn't begin with a slammed door or a suitcase. It started 2 days earlier, with a $5 lottery ticket. For God's sake, Mom, what is this garbage? That was Leo, my son. His voice cut through the soft morning quiet like a blade. He stood over me at the kitchen table, shadow falling across my cup of Earl Grey like a storm cloud. In his hand, he held the scratch-off ticket like it was something spoiled, diseased. Sabrina stood at the sink, polishing a wine glass that likely hadn't seen wine in weeks. Her movements were slow, surgical, like she was pretending to be calm. Her reflection in the curved glass was stretched, monstrous, and silent. Sabrina didn't need words. Her silence had become a weapon far sharper than speech. She could humiliate you with a purse of her lips, a flick of her eyebrow. I glanced between Leo's furious face and the ticket. A Buckeye bonanza, my tiny indulgence, one of the few little rituals I had allowed myself after Frank died. He had worked himself into the ground at the steel mills down by the Cuyahoga River. And when he left this world, the silence in our tiny apartment was suffocating. The scratch-offs weren't about winning. They were whispers of hope. A $5 fantasy. A soft flicker of what if? It was my money. Leo, I said softly. My voice barely rustled like dry leaves across the table. Leo laughed. Not the laugh of my son, but of a stranger. Harsh. Cruel. Your money? That cookie jar's for groceries. That's our money. You don't work. We pay for everything. You live here for free. Don't forget that. Free. That word hit like a brick. As if all the years I worked double shifts after Frank's accident meant nothing. As if a life insurance I signed over to help them buy this very house didn't exist. As if the diapers changed, the bottles warmed, the nights I stayed up while Sabrina worked on her online brand, were just part of some invisible contract I had never agreed to. It's not about the $5. Leo snapped. His face had flushed red, like shame trying to pass itself off as righteousness. It's the principle. You're 72. Stop acting like a kid. That's when Sabrina spoke. Her voice always carried that sickly sweet edge, like syrup over broken glass. We just think it's a bit undignified. Clara, people talk. I sank deeper into my chair, as though the rose pattern on the vinyl tablecloth could swallow me whole. I wanted to explain that Marco, the cashier at the corner store, knew me by name. That every time he said, the usual, Miss T, it made me feel like I still existed. But the words, my words, were stuck behind a wall they had spent years carefully building for me. A wall of guilt, of shame, of silence. So instead, I simply folded the ticket, the one that offended them so deeply, and slipped it quietly into the pocket of my cardigan. I hadn't even scratched it yet. Don't say we didn't warn you, Leo muttered as he turned his back. Sabrina followed him without a glance, a shadow stitched to his heel. I sat in that kitchen for a long time. The quiet they left behind was not peaceful. It was loud in the cruelest way. This room, once full of the smell of pancakes, of laughter, of bedtime bottles, it now felt foreign. Cold, as though I was the intruder. I looked at the pencil marks on the doorway. The ones I made to track Leo's height. The nick in the floor from his first tricycle crash. This wasn't a home anymore. It was a museum of love they had chosen to forget. And I was just another exhibit they no longer wanted to dust. Later that morning, I sat on the porch swing, needing to breathe air that wasn't thick with resentment. I pulled the ticket from my cardigan. A Buckeye Bonanza, grand prize, $17 million. And at the bottom, in small print, sign here to validate I had already signed it. As I always did, Clara May Thompson, dated that morning, the blue ink still fresh, still shaking slightly. I pulled a quarter from my purse and pressed it to the ticket's surface. The familiar rasp of coin against card whispered like defiance, you know. If you've ever felt dismissed, erased, or shamed for simply hoping, just like that $5 ticket, I want you to keep listening. Because this story isn't just about a lottery win. It's about reclaiming something far more valuable. If you've ever felt dismissed, erased, or shamed for simply hoping, just like that $5 ticket, I want you to keep listening. Because this story isn't just about a lottery win. It's about reclaiming something far more valuable. I scratched off the latex coating. My hand steady but my heart racing like a drum inside my ribs. 14, A28, A3, I kept scratching. Every movement careful, every breath held. And then, I saw them, the symbols lined up. The numbers matched. And under the prize box a figure so large, so surreal, it made my vision swim. $17 million, not thousand, not a mistake. 17,000. I didn't gasp. I didn't scream or jump from the swing. No tears, no shaking hands. What I felt instead was a terrifying kind of stillness. Crystalline, absolute. I stared at the ticket, not in disbelief, but in certainty. It was real. It was mine. I folded it as gently as I would fold a prayer and slipped it into the zippered inside pocket of my purse. The one I always kept closest to my body, right there. On the porch of the house where I no longer truly belonged. I felt something return to me. A power I hadn't felt in decades, and it wasn't about the money, it was the knowledge. The knowing. They thought they held every card. Thought I was small, forgettable, powerless. But they never even bothered to look at the name on the back. While they raised their glasses to their own superiority, I held the one truth they never imagined for the first time in a long time. I knew exactly what I was going to do the next day. I said nothing. I moved through the house like a shadow. I tidied the kitchen, picked a few weeds in the garden, washed dishes, folded towels. Sabrina passed me in the hallway and offered one of her polite plastic smiles. Not a word, but tucked in my purse was the ticket. The real one, the only one that mattered. It was warm against the fabric, like a secret heartbeat. Later that afternoon, I was in the laundry room, sorting their clothes like I always did. That's when the first flicker of dread stirred. I kept a small wicker basket in there, just a catch-all for bits from pockets. Loose change, crumpled receipts, gum wrappers, and lottery tickets, the ones I didn't win. I'd toss in there for second-chance drawings. Silly maybe, but I'd always believed even losing numbers deserved a second glance. I remembered tossing a losing ticket in there just yesterday. Nothing special, but something made me check. I reached into the basket. It was empty. Strange, maybe I'd thrown it away? I checked the trash, sifted through coffee filters, banana peels, paper towels, nothing. I got on my knees and looked under the washing machine, behind the detergent. Still nothing. Gone. It was just a dud. A nothing ticket, worthless, but somehow, its absence made my skin crawl. A quiet violation. A trespass I couldn't quite name yet. That night, I sat in bed knitting, but my hands couldn't find rhythm. My yarn knotted into a tangle of anxiety as I listened to the faint sound of giggles through the walls. The pop of a champagne cork. The clink of glasses. Celebration, in my house the next morning. A delivery truck blocked the driveway. Out came a flat screen, 80 inches. No less, wheeled into the living room like a throne. Sabrina signed for it wearing a silk robe, grinning like a woman receiving tribute, but it didn't stop their cases of expensive wine. Designer bags. Boxes from high-end electronics stores. A code I recognized from a catalog. The price tag alone was more than my monthly social security check. They never mentioned a lottery win. They didn't need to. They were living it right there. Loudly, lavishly. In front of the woman they had humiliated over a $5 daydream. I sat in my armchair. Needles clicking out of sync. My knitting unraveling in my lap, and still. I hoped I was wrong. Maybe a bonus. An inheritance. A windfall I didn't know about, but hope faded when I walked into the kitchen and saw Sabrina's phone glowing on the counter. A text from her sister. OMG Sab. $17 million? Are you seriously not telling the old bat? I froze. The old bat, that's who I was to them. Not mom, not grandma, just the old bat. And then it hit me like ice water. They had found the ticket. But not the right one. Not my ticket. Not the one with my name on the back. Zipped safe inside my purse. They must have found a discarded one. Maybe a second chance ticket. Mistaken it for gold in their greedy fog, and now they were burning through their riches. Meanwhile, I was still there, still making their coffee, still folding their laundry, still invisible. It wasn't just the greed. It was the certainty they had that I didn't matter. They thought they had won. And their first instinct was to erase me, and I let them. I let them have their party. Their fantasy. Their parade of packages, but deep down, I knew something they didn't. Have you ever watched someone celebrate your erasure, only to realize you still held the ending to the story? If that question stirs something in you, friend, I hope you'll stay with me, because what came next changed everything. 2 days later, I returned home from a walk and found my key no longer fit the lock. I stood there, confused, fidgeting with the doorknob. Then it opened. Just a crack. Leo, he wouldn't meet my eyes. Mom, he began, voice low and rehearsed. We need a little space. With everything going on, it's just getting a bit crowded. My things are inside. I said. I barely recognized my own voice. We packed them for you. Came Sabrina's voice from somewhere deep in the house, and that's when I saw it. 2 suitcases. My knitting bag. And on top, resting like a final insult, the empty wicker basket. There on the porch. That's all, Sabrina said. And there they were. My suitcases. The old canvas bag that still smelled faintly of lavender and wool. And sitting on top, like a cruel cherry on the cake, the empty wicker basket. The same one I'd once used to collect lost buttons and spare change. It now looked like a joke. A final, mocking gesture. I didn't plead. I didn't scream. I didn't ask them why. The fight had drained out of me. All that was left was a chilling clarity. Like the sky after a storm. I picked up my bags and walked to the curb. Behind me, I heard the deadbolt click shut again, sharp. Final. They didn't offer me a ride. They didn't hand me even $1. They offered me one thing. A locked door and the muffled echoes of a party I was no longer invited to. Let them celebrate. They thought they had won. They were so consumed by greed. So drunk on the number printed on a scrap of paper. That they never imagined I might have the real one. Their arrogance was my armor. I walked the 12 blocks to the West Park branch of the Cleveland Public Library. The moment I stepped through its doors, I was greeted by the scent of old books and quiet dignity. It was warm. It was free. And for now, that was enough. My life, once filled with rooms and furniture and family, was reduced to 2 suitcases. And with every step I took, they grew heavier, not from weight, but from the weight of betrayal. I found an empty Carl by a rain-slick window and plugged in my old flip phone. My hands were shaking. I had the truth. But truth alone doesn't always protect you, not when someone else is already rewriting the story. I needed proof. I opened the photo gallery on my phone, scrolling past blurry shots of my granddaughter Isabel, a few roses from the garden, a pie I had once been proud of. And then, I found it. A photo I'd taken 3 days ago at the corner store. I had almost forgotten. Just a habit. A quiet, almost paranoid instinct that had grown stronger with age. The photo was sharp. The Buckeye Bonanza ticket. Untouched. Flat on the counter. Zooming in, I saw the serial numbers. And even more important, on the back. In blue ink. Slightly crooked but unmistakably mine. Clara May Thompson. My breath caught. They hadn't stolen the real ticket. They couldn't have. It was right here with me. Safe in my purse. They must have found a different one, maybe from the second chance pile, and their desperation had filled in the blanks. They saw what they wanted to see. And in their rush to cash in on my foolishness, they never even paused to look closer. They built their palace of wine and electronics on a lie. But I had the truth. And now, I had the proof. Confronting them would be useless. They'd deny, deflect, manipulate. I knew that game. What I needed was a different weapon. I opened the library computer and searched for the Ohio Lottery Commission. There it was. A number for disputed claims. The woman who answered had a calm, professional voice. The kind you don't realize you're craving until you hear it. I told her everything, my voice shaking at first, then growing firmer with each word. I told her about the ticket, the photo, the date, the signature. I told her what they thought they had found. I told her who I was. She paused for a moment, then said gently, "Ma'am, if your name is on that ticket and you have proof of purchase, then the ticket is legally yours. It doesn't matter who else thinks they won. The signature is what determines the rightful owner." I felt hot tears roll down my cheeks. Not of sadness, not of anger, but of something deeper, relief. All this time I had been holding my breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop. But I was still standing. The truth was mine, and now someone else saw it too. Speech balloon if you've ever clung to your truth when no one else believed you. This part's for you, and if you're still holding on quietly, please know you're not alone. The woman gave me clear instructions. Keep that ticket safe, and keep that photo. We'll open an official inquiry. After the call, I walked back to the corner store. Marco, the cashier, was behind the counter, young, always polite. "Hey, Mrs. T," he smiled. "The usual?" "Not today, Marco," I said, my own smile trembling but finally genuine. "I need a favor." I explained what I needed. Just a still frame, around 10 a.m. 3 days ago. Me buying a ticket, nothing fancy. He blinked, concerned. "Everything okay?" "Not really," I replied, "but I'm fixing it." Minutes later, he handed me a printout. There I was, standing at the counter, handing over a $5 bill. I looked tired, wrinkled, worn, but undeniably me. A woman, a customer, the rightful owner. Between the time-stamped photo on my phone, my signature on the ticket, and this still frame, I now had what I called my trinity of truth. That evening, surrounded by the hushed rustle of turning pages and whispering printers, I uploaded all the evidence and emailed it to the Ohio Lottery Commission. Less than an hour later, a reply landed in my inbox. Claim received. Preliminary evidence verified. Please await formal review. The ticket has been flagged in our system. I stared at those words. Legally yours. I had no home, no family, less than $100 to my name. But I had the truth. And now, so did the state of Ohio. 48 hours later, the official email came. "Dear Miss Thompson, your identity as the purchaser and signatory of winning ticket by 78B 451,902 has been verified. You are the rightful claimant of the $17 million prize. Please contact our Columbus office to begin the secure transfer process. Options for anonymity are available." Rightful claimant. 2 words that changed everything. I chose the senior privacy clause. It's a little-known option for lottery winners, designed to protect elderly claimants from fraud, manipulation, and financial predators. Often, heartbreakingly, those predators are family. The irony wasn't lost on me. Across town, while I was calmly securing my identity, their fantasy was beginning to unravel. My old flip phone, which I'd kept on silent, started vibrating like a trapped insect. 6 missed calls from Sabrina. 10 from Leo. Then came the texts, one after another. A frantic, messy cascade of panic and revisionist history. "Mom, where are you? We were worried." "Okay, we found a ticket. We thought it was the big one. It was a mistake. Let's just talk about this. The lottery office said there's a conflicting claim. What did you do? Mom, answer me. Let's just split it 50-50. That's more than fair. This can be good for all of us." I pictured them, standing at the lottery office, puffed up with confidence, dressed for their big press conference, smiles rehearsed, and then the moment of reckoning. Told that the prize had already been legally claimed. By me. I imagined Sabrina's mask of charm cracking down the middle. Leo's face contorted in rage. Impotent and bitter. They had rehearsed their victory speech. But they had never even considered the possibility of defeat. Then came the voicemail. Sabrina's voice oozed through the speaker, thick, syrupy sweet, carefully measured. Clara, I know we've had our issues. But think of Isabel. Think of family. This money doesn't have to tear us apart. It can be a bridge. A bridge? They had burned the entire village to the ground. And now they wanted to borrow a cup of sugar from the ashes. I powered the phone off. I let them sit in the same silence they had imposed on me, not long ago, without guilt. Without hesitation. The money was mine. The power was mine. But most importantly, the truth was mine. And I had no intention of ever setting foot on their side of that burned bridge again. Of course, their next move was as predictable as it was vile. When emotional manipulation failed, they turned to public destruction. Miss Albright, the gentle librarian who had quietly taken interest in my situation, approached me that morning. Her face tense. Clara, she said softly, holding out her phone, I think you need to see this. It was Sabrina's Facebook page. The profile picture was professionally staged. Head tilted, perfect lighting, her expression serene, vulnerable. Beneath it, a post. A carefully constructed symphony of victimhood. Heartbroken. Sometimes, the people you love most betray you in the cruelest ways. My husband's mother, Clara, who we took into our home, stole our winning lottery ticket right out of my purse. We believe her age has made her confused and greedy. We only ever wanted to provide for our daughter's future. Please pray for our family. There was a photo too. The three of them, Sabrina, Leo, and little Isabel, on my porch, clutching the child between them like a human shield. Their expressions were composed, tearless, calculated. Hashtags lined the bottom like a row of knives. Hashtag elder abuse. Hashtag family betrayal. Hashtag justice for Izzy. And the comments? A flood of bile. Disgusting. How could a mother do that? Take her to court. She's clearly senile. That poor little girl. Her grandmother stole her future. I stared at the screen. Hands gone cold. They weren't just attacking my name. They were trying to erase me. To rewrite the narrative so completely. There would be nothing left of me but whispers. But they had forgotten one thing. I kept everything. With Miss Albright's help, I sat down at the library's public computer. My fingers, usually slow, hesitant, moved with a strange, steady rhythm. Not rage, not vengeance. Precision. They wanted a public spectacle? Then let's give them the truth. I built my case, not for a judge, but for the court of public opinion they had so arrogantly summoned. Exhibit A. The photo of the winning ticket. My signature bold, blue, and dated. Exhibit B. The security camera still from Marco's store, me holding the $5 bill. Exhibit C. My bank statement from that morning, showing the withdrawal. Exhibit D. A screenshot of a text from Sabrina months ago. After I broke a dish. I am so sick of you being a useless freeloader in my house. And finally, Exhibit E. The official letter from the Ohio Lottery Commission. A PDF declaring, in unambiguous language, that Clara May Thompson was the sole verified winner. I compiled it all into one file. Then I wrote a short caption. To whom it may concern. A false narrative is being spread about me. Here is the documented truth. I did not want to make this public. But I will not allow my name to be slandered. The truth has receipts. Then, I hit send. The email went to Nora Vance, an investigative journalist I had long admired. She wrote for a Cleveland-based outlet that specialized in elder exploitation, inheritance fraud, and quiet injustices no one else bothered to report. She was smart, fearless, and meticulous. I went back to my rented room that evening, made a cup of tea, and waited. That night, the article went live. The headline was blunt and bold. She was called a thief by her son. The receipts tell a different story. The piece laid it all out. Fact by painful fact. Photo by damning photo. Speech balloon. If you've been following this far, take a second to hit like. Not for me, but for every older woman who's been pushed out, gaslit, or painted the villain in her own story. The truth matters, and when it speaks, it echoes. The screenshots, the official letter, the security camera still, laid out one by one. They were methodical, irrefutable, and devastating. Within hours of Nora's article going live, the tide turned. The hashtags on Sabrina's post, the ones she had weaponized against me, began to flood with new voices. Wait, so you tried to steal it from her? Justice for Clara. This is shameful. Wow, you kicked your own mother out and then lied about it? The receipts don't lie. Someone even unearthed an old comment thread from months before, Sabrina mocking my knitting, calling it a sad pioneer woman hobby. That comment spread like wildfire. The judgment they had unleashed on me was now eating them alive. And the consequences came quickly. The elite private school Isabel attended had a very strict code of conduct for parents. Sabrina was quietly removed from the fundraising committee, no announcement, no drama, just gone. Their old neighbors, the Hamiltons, the ones who used to bring over Christmas cookies and wave from their porch, stopped waving. Stopped speaking. The neighborhood Facebook group? It became a minefield of quietly posted links to Nora's article. With no comments, just the truth staring back. But the final blow? That landed squarely on Leo. He worked in PR, his entire career built on carefully managed perception and polished words. His firm, now facing its own PR disaster, released a statement. Our company is committed to the values of integrity and family. The recent information that has come to light regarding the personal conduct of Leo Thompson is in direct conflict with these values. As of today, he is no longer employed with our firm. Within a week, a for sale sign appeared on their lawn. 2 weeks later, a bold red sold banner slapped across it. They vanished, deleted their social media, changed their phone numbers, disappeared like shadows at sunrise. The last I ever heard of them came in the form of a single, unsigned note left in my new mailbox. It read, "You win. We're leaving Ohio." I folded the note and tucked it into the same envelope that held the lottery ticket. Not as a trophy, but as punctuation. A period at the end of a long, painful sentence. It wasn't joy I felt. It wasn't even satisfaction. It was peace. Quiet, still, and deeply earned. The house I purchased was nothing grand, just a small brick bungalow in a leafy suburb. It had a porch swing, a flower bed ready for tulips, and a stillness I could finally breathe. Most importantly, it was mine, paid in full. No one could lock me out of it again. On the wall above my favorite armchair, I framed a photo, not of family, not of the check. It was the security still from Marco's store. In it, I'm just a woman holding a $5 bill, buying a ticket. But in my eyes, if you look closely, there's something else. Hope. Hope that had been buried for too long. And beneath that photo, I hung a small, hand-carved piece of wood. 4 simple words, burned into the grain. I cached the truth. Before I left Cleveland for good, I stopped at the library one last time. I handed Miss Albright a check. For the library, I said, for new books, or fixing the heat, or just for being a safe harbor. She hugged me tightly. No expectations, no questions, just warmth. The kind that asks for nothing in return. I never looked back. I didn't need to know where they went. That chapter was closed. My healing didn't depend on their apologies, or their remorse. It only needed one thing. Peace. One afternoon, a letter arrived. I recognized the handwriting instantly. Leo. It was long, rambling, full of guilt and vague regret. A plea for a second chance. If not for you, then at least for Isabel. There was a time, maybe just a year ago, that letter would have broken me. I would have folded it carefully, wept over it, and clung to some flicker of hope. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I pulled out a simple note card. There was a sunflower on the front. Inside, I wrote one line. Forgiveness is something you must find for yourselves. My peace is no longer yours to borrow. I mailed it with no return address. That evening, I sat on my porch, a cup of tea in hand, mint leaves from my own windowsill. The sun painting the sky in soft strokes of orange and violet. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to win. Revenge is loud, but dignity is quiet. It's the house you build for yourself after they burn the old one down. It's the garden you plant when all they left you was scorched earth. It's the profound, unshakable knowing that your worth has never depended on the people who failed to see it. It was always there, always yours, and in the warm, gentle quiet of the life I made. That was finally Beautifully enough. Speech balloon. If this story spoke to something in you, if you've ever chosen quiet dignity over shouting back, please consider subscribing. This space is for voices like ours. Let them say what they will. We have our truth, and we cashed it. Clara's story isn't just about money or justice. It's about knowing your worth, even when others try to erase it. If you've ever been pushed out, left behind, or made to feel invisible, this space is for you. Hit subscribe, and stay a little longer. There's more truth to be told.